Hi, this is ProACT Sam. Welcome to this episode of the Living Working Abroad show, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year in very many ways, and that's what I want to address to you today. In a year, um, there's roughly 13 lunar cycles and 12 solar cycles, 12 months, 13 lunar months. So a lunar month is about 28 days. 28 times 13 is 364. They're generally about 365 days in a year. So everything is there or thereabouts. But actually what we can see is that the calendar that you may know in your country might not be the calendar that somebody else knows. The Persian Empire had their version, the Chinese Empire had their version, the Europeans had their version. That European was exported to America, but different traditions existed before then. So let's have a look, though, to see that although we've got religion and autocracy playing a large part in regulating how the years pass for tax and for time, in fact, there's a lot of tradition that shows that some of these things go back a long way. Generally, there's 4 quarters in a year. The quarters are set around when the sun is at its highest and its lowest peak, and when it's halfway in between. And there's 13 weeks in a quarter. So if you take a 7-day week, there's 13 weeks in that quarter. And generally, the halfway mark in that, we might call that half term if we're at school, it's the halfway mark. And this is where we are in the middle of February, when we've got a Happy New Year moment arriving then. But that's not always been the case. Christmas, Easter, Midsummer, autumn have always been celebrated with special festivals and supplanted by religion over the years to create these events around that. So Christmas, Easter, Midsummer, Madness, Halloween, all these religious festivals have also got roots that date back to way beyond that. The Yuletide Festival, Halloween Festival, the Midsummer Festival, and the Easter Festival all predate European Christian religions. So have a look a bit more about that and look into a bit more detail. In Britain, which it was at the time, 1752, the new year always starts on the 25th of March, which is generally the spring equinox. Not always, not precisely, but that was the start of the new year. But the Western European Catholics changed the calendar that they used around about 1580 to a new Gregorian calendar sponsored by the French and the Pope, which was designed to be more accurate and gives us a calendar that we know generally today. And then traditionally in this calendar, there's an Easter period, which it moved from being the New Year to the end of the first quarter. The New Year was set around about the winter equinox, which is Christmas is supplanted on that. January the 1st is a few days later. So all the time we're adjusting these things. What happens in the spring, in February, is we get a fasting period. So for the Western Christians, that's Lent. For the Jewish, it's the Passover. And for the Muslims, it's Ramadan. 40 days of fasting, represented with different myths and cultures from those religions. But effectively, it takes you over the end of the winter, the end of eating up the stores of food that you got from the previous year's harvest before the spring festival and the replanting gets away. 40 days, 6 weeks, half term. How often do we hear that? So the festival in Europe, in the UK, we call it Valentine's Day. In in Europe, it's generally Ladies' Day, Green Monday, something like that, to celebrate party, festival before the fasting period to start the spring equinox. The Roman Empire was always split into two, well, not always. When Julius Caesar became emperor around 45 CE, he created his empire with his calendar based on the Julius calendar, which is essentially the one we use today, but it had some innate inaccuracies. He also had a second emperor in the west, which was Istanbul, that carried on through the centuries. So, well, the Roman Empire fell in the 4th century. The Eastern European Empire, the Byzantine Empire, carried on till 1452, essentially still using the Julius calendar, whereas Western Europe moved towards the new Gregorian calendar from 1580, and was lastly adopted in Turkey and in the UK in 1752. So it was only in 1752 that the British then adopted this new Gregorian calendar, and that meant adjusting for 13 days. And that 13 days is quite significant in 2026. It means that a Western Christian Easter this year is the 5th of April, and the Eastern Christian Easter is the 12th of April. It's a week later, because Easter is based on the first full moon after the equinox. So the official equinox this year is 21st of March at about 4:45 in the afternoon in the Northern Hemisphere. So the first full moon after that, the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the 21st of March, is the 5th of April in the Gregorian calendar. In the Julius Caesar calendar, it's a week later, and it can be up to 5 weeks out using that system. But what we also have at this time of year is the start of the Muslim Ramadan. Now, the Muslim Ramadan is their fasting period going up to the spring equinox festivals, but they don't work it out in the same way that the Christians work out Easter. So whereas the Christians use the first full moon, the first Sunday after the equinox, the Chinese and the Muslims, they use the first, they use the 2 full moons after the winter equinox. I hope you understand that after I bumbled it away. So Easter is in the West is the first full moon, the Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, the 21st of March. The Muslims use the second full moon after the winter equinox at Christmas time. The Chinese use the same principle for calculating their New Year's Day, which is the 17th of February in 2026. So Happy New Year, Happy New Chinese New Year. The Chinese calendar this year gives us a date of 4724 as opposed to 2026. So it's 4724 in Chinese money. But actually, the calendar's not just been running for that 5,000 years, it's actually been running for much longer. And there's evidence of the Chinese calendar in action. The 16th century ago, 14 centuries before the Christian calendar for 2026 started. And that puts the first Chinese calendar dates around about the same time as the Neolithic mounds and tombs and cities, lords' halls that you see in Europe at Stonehenge and places like that. So they're about 5,000 years old, which is as long as the Chinese calendar. The interesting thing is that the Chinese New Year festival, without the Christian or religious overplanks, it lasts around 12, 15 days. So whereas with the Christian tradition, after Christmas and your New Year, you have the 12 days of Christmas. That's the way that's been supplanted. But that 12-day festival is always there. It's all part of the adjustment between the calendars, between the lunar and the solar years to get precisely right. So the Western tradition is to use the current Gregorian calendar with leap years and odd days in the month. A lunar month is 28 days, and you have a 12-day New Year period. In the same day, you have 12 days after Christmas as well. And you still have the equivalent of the fasting period before Christmas. We call it Advent. It's the build up to the Christmas festival. So we're now in a period of fasting. Money's tight. Religions are all building up to their big springtime festival. But it is the start of the tax year. Springtime, 25th of March or 1st of April, remains the start of the tax year for many countries, including UK, Canada, Japan, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and South Africa, as well as India. So if you've got a spring tax return or advice or guidance you need, you can contact us at ProACTPartnership.com. Many other countries revert and retain a December calendar year tax year. So that includes a lot of the EU countries. So again, those people started their new tax year in January, the same as a calendar year, but again, putting those submissions in gets together around about the March time. So from when we get into February, March, April, we're beginning to look at the Spring Festival of Easter and getting the tax returns done for expats living and working abroad around the world. And if you need help and guidance, you can contact us at ProACTPartnership.com. Why is the UK tax year the 5th of April and not the 25th of March or the 1st of April? Well, the 1st of April is selected as a nice, neat package. 1st of January, a nice, neat start to the new year, while the 25th of December. The days are odd, but the traditions, the solar and lunar cycles are consistent, and going back many thousands of years, the festivals and the holidays and the celebrations have gone on, and they've carried on despite what's been added to them in different ways. When the UK changed from the Julius Caesar calendar to the Gregorian calendar in 1752, that year, the 2nd of September was followed by the 14th of September. 12 days was lost. 12 days in the middle was lost. Spooky, that number comes up again, doesn't it? The 12 days of Christmas, the 12 days of the Chinese New Year. The 12 days were lost. The adjustment from the Julius Caesar to the Georgian Gregorian calendar. And people weren't happy. They weren't happy about the lost rents, the lost income, and the lost payroll for that year. And the short-term solution for the politicians was to say, well, at the end of the 1752, 1753 tax year was extended to the 5th of April, an extra 12 days, and it was never adjusted back. The temporary adjustment to satisfy the public with the loss of those 12 days of income, we've managed by changing the UK tax year from the 25th of March, which had been the New Year's Day up until 1752, to the 5th of April 1753, which was the end of the tax year, which gave them the same number of days because of that lost 12 days in December, adjusting the calendars. Everything is linked, everything goes back a long way. and everything is connected. So it's the start of the tax year for many people in tax returns. The UK tax year starts on the 6th of April, and yeah, an expat has to do a return if they are asked to do a return, or if they've got a taxable obligation. That could be income in the UK, could be fixed property rental income, but capital gains in the UK are fixed. And if your pension is not registered for you living or working abroad, that is fixed in the UK as well. So you may need to do a return. You may need to deregister from the UK and register in your new jurisdiction. Your tax residency doesn't change unless you change it. So you need to get a residency before you can change your tax residency. But until you change your tax residency, you remain a tax resident in the country where you are. That's not to say the law might not require that change, but if you need help and guidance, changing your tax registration for living and working abroad, or relocating overseas or back home, contact us at ProACTPartnership.com. The big changes in the Cyprus tax returns for 2026, increased allowances, reduced tax rates. This is a wonderful thing. Unlike many tax regimes around the world, Cyprus is liberalising and simplifying its tax system and allowing you to earn more money before you get paid tax. So no one has got an income tax obligation under 20,000 salary a year, but they do have their flat rate taxes, which can apply to pensions or rental income. So there may be a little tax to pay, but you might be paying no more than 2.65% on your income, as opposed to up to 47% now on UK property rental income. So consider that. One of the big changes in Cyprus, and it's something that ProACT have recommended for years, is that you now, everybody between 25 and 70 has to complete a tax return if you're tax resident in Cyprus. That wasn't the case before. It was only if you needed to. But actually, the two times before the current year, the two times when you needed to complete a tax return is when you died or when you sold real estate in Cyprus. But then they would ask you to do up to 5 years. And we've had cases where we've had to do 10 years backward with tax returns for clients because they didn't do them each year as they go along. So we've always recommended to our clients, do a tax year each year because it clears your record where you are. And then when you relocate to another country, you've got a clean tax record without any complications abroad. So, but now, everybody in Cyprus between 25 and 70 has to do a tax return, even if they've got no income at all. However, if you're over 70 or under 25 and you've got an income tax liability, you may still need to do a tax return. So it's true, if you're a Cyprus resident and you've got a state pension, you're not liable to some of the flat rate taxes. But if you've got an overseas pension or you've got other income, then you could still have an income tax liability, albeit at 5%. And therefore, if you've got property rental income, you've got dividends, you've got a pension income, or you've got earnings, remote or overseas, you still need to get that tax return submitted, even if you're over 70. For more information and guidance, contact us at ProACTPartnership.com. So, ProACT always offer a free review. You can have a free review now. Doesn't matter whether you've talked to us in the past or whatever. With the change of the tax laws, with the new year, with the fasting period leading up to the spring festival and the requirement to do the returns coming in, now is the time to consider that. You can do a free review with us. Contact us, book in a free review. You can book online at ProACTPartnership.com, the contact us page. You can book a free review consultation online, and we can assess your situation to see whether you need to do a tax return in the UK, Cyprus, or any other jurisdiction around the world. Aside from that, if you want a free review about your investments, buying property, setting up a business, or making a will and protecting your family and estate when something goes wrong, ProACT can give you a free review and guidance on how to protect your property, business and investment assets around the world. You can contact us at proactpartnership.com. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next time.